Is everybody unmuted?
Oh, wait a minute.
I unmuted you.
This
That's
isn't-
mine.
I know. Did you hear me say, wait a
Debbie,
minute?
you unmuted? On
Taking
your,
my money.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're not gonna find much.
You guys are live.
What?
thank you.
What did he say?
Good morning. Welcome to the Council on Aging Board of Directors monthly meeting. Today's Wednesday, November 20th. May I have a motion to call the meeting to order?
Make a motion to call the meeting to order. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved, thank you. Linda, would you please read the mission statement for the Council on Aging?
Sure. The mission of the Council on Aging is to advocate for Groveland's older adults, to identify their needs, to develop and implement services to meet their health, economic, social, and cultural needs, to encourage maximum independence, and to improve their quality of life.
Thank you. Approval of the October 16th, 2024 meeting minutes. Sorry? I'm sorry?
You didn't introduce yourselves. Who's sitting here?
Oh, all right, we can do that, thank you. It was suggested, and I forgot, that we all introduce ourselves, so let's start down there.
Deb Stevenson, member of the COO Board and Treasurer.
Irene Thomas, board member and secretary.
Barbara Sanborn, Board Chair.
Murray Waller, member of the board.
Laurel Paulsky, vice chair.
Linda Brown, member of the board.
And we have Alyssa,
Alyssa Lee, Director of the COA.
and we have Larry McKelney with us from the Friends. Thank you. Okay, now moving on, could we have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 16th meeting?
Motion. I'll make a motion to accept them.
I'll second. Okay. Is there any questions, comments, or discussion on those minutes?
Good job as usual, Irene.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. So everyone who was here at that meeting can vote. All those in favor of accepting those minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Director's report. Alyssa, please.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I can go over some high points of the report. Certainly, if there are any questions along the way, don't hesitate to stop and ask. In the beginning, just wanted to say just a thank you to the community. I personally love November and Thanksgiving, and to be able to give gratitude and for the community to do so as well. So huge thank you to the Groveland Police and Fire Department to organize the food drive earlier this month. And again, a well-deserved thank you to the outpouring of community support who gave all the donations to our COA pantry and others in the community. And thank you to the Friends and to many of you on the COA board that came in and in record speed organized and put away the donations that we received. So really appreciate that, and certainly wanted to acknowledge staff. It's also a very busy time for us, not only food pantry, but a lot of services needed for heating assistance, for Medicare, for all of those outreach services. It does put a lot of time. Certainly that is what we are here for, so appreciate their work as well. Moving on to finance, again, certainly happy to address any questions that you have. Nothing that is out of the ordinary in the report. We are sticking well within budget for all of our items. I did apply to the Mass DOT grant for expenses. That'll be $5,000. If awarded, that would be for FY26. We received lovely support letters from the Nichols Village and also from the Groveland Housing Authority. So truly appreciate their support in that. The big outlier in regards to expense, we talked about it last month because it took place last month with the van expenses. It is on the finances this time around. Nothing big was wrong, it was just routine things that we needed to make sure we keep up to date. Any questions on finance? Next is the Assistant Director's report from Nisha. She just does a high overview of many of our events that took place and a few upcoming ones. Again, the Halloween and trivia luncheon was our big social event last month. Lots of fun. Many of you were there, so really appreciate your support and look forward to many more continuing. Pen Pal program is back. So we do have a couple children that would love to have a pen pal. So if anyone is interested in having an additional pen pal, or those out there that are looking to have a pen pal, that would be wonderful. They're first graders, so they are just beginning in this process, and so they can be short and sweet, but certainly meaningful to, I think, both parties involved. So you can email us or give us a call if you're at all interested. We do need them pretty soon. Within the next day or two. But let us know if you're interested.
Got one today.
Okay. Oh, just a quick note, because I saw it in Nisha. So we have, as I mentioned, we have a lot of Shine requests because it is a renewal season, open enrollment. And so Shine is no longer booking individual appointments. So if you have not yet booked your appointment, Shine is full, all the Shine counselors. So then the best thing to do is to call the Medicare number on the back of your card or go online, or certainly we can give it to you, and they are there. They are that resource and can certainly answer your questions. Just be prepared to wait on the wait line. So I wanted to, put that out there. Oh, I did it again, huh? 3? Oh, no. Okay. Never mind. I thought I had a mishap with my numbering again. So just a little bit into the stats in regards to, our programming. As we see this every month is this rising community outreach number. Certainly October was no different, and expected to continue to rise in November, and all the outreach things that we've, just spoke about. Seasonal programming, it's really clear as we shifted into thinking about how we were planning for this year to be themed. We feel that that's really helped us, get numbers, get people in when we have a focus on our programming. So that has helped a lot. And as you'll see in the numbers, just continue to do a lot of one-on-one interactions. And again, they are one person multiple times, because there is a lot of follow-up to make sure that services that they're getting the services they need and follow through accordingly. Any questions on the programming that took place in October? A lot of great things happening coming up. Just want to put a spotlight on. When I sent it out, we were doing the Adapting and Transitioning with AARP. That took place yesterday. It was a lovely presentation. That was sort of the foundational presentation from AARP. Should we continue to do more, which we will. We'll have another presenter on decluttering on January 14th, I believe. But coming up closer than January, our next program is Holiday and Winter Electrical Safety Tips. This is being put on by the Groveland Electric Department. They have 5 $50 gift cards that they're giving away. So I highly recommend that people come and join us and learn. And when you do that, you'll be entered for those gift cards, and you also get a little tabletop pie too. Then in December, we have a paper making class. The idea was, so we're using Mindy paper cookies. Mindy is amazing. She's done a couple programs, or she's done a program with us in the past at Memory Cafe, really phenomenal experience. So she's coming back for a bigger event. And that'll take place December 2nd, Conversations That Matter, on Tuesday, December 3rd, 4 o'clock. And we are using the book to guide our discussion when things fall apart. And then December 5th, in celebration of Older Adults Driver Safety Week, we are having a presentation by the RMV. Again, December 5th, 11:30. These are free events. We'll talk about all sorts of things, including disability plaque card applications, Real ID, age-related challenges, and all sorts of things. So please do join us. Any questions? No? All right. Food insecurity and pantry update. So during the month of October, we had 92 attendees, so those can be multiple duplicate people, went into the pantry and used our services, and we were able to provide 1,240 pounds of food. Our Amazon wish list is continued to be updated. We've received donations, from the community. So again, really, really appreciate it. I just put out salt and pepper shakers from someone, so thank you very much. And then today is an exciting day because this is when our turkeys and chickens get distributed from our neighbor's table. So today, the truck, we have about, I want to say 16 or 17 people requested turkeys and or a chicken for the pantry. So we will make sure that everybody gets those along with all the sides that should they wish to get. That'll be part of our normal pantry order process. But, gravy, cranberry sauce, sweet potatoes, all that good stuff. So should be a good day. Also, Acacios, is that right? Acacios has generously donating to the food pantry as well for our homebound older adults. We'll get a box of the Thanksgiving items that will arrive next week for them. Meals on Wheels. So this is something I do want to bring to your attention. That so right now, and many of you know the much longer history. For right now, AgeSpan. They operate the service. They are the sort of logistics manager. They receive the funding. They do the employment, the coordination, and so forth. So they're sort of the high level. Next level down that actually does the work would be West Newbury COA for those receiving meals in the Groveland area. However, both AgeSpan and West Newbury COA reached out to us to see if the Groveland COA would be interested in taking that responsibility on. So we had a chat on what that looks like. It looks like overall a fairly easy lift for us. Certainly understand, the need that they want to move it over here, which is essentially their staff person is changing responsibilities, and this really no longer fits in their daily duties. And additionally, our neighbors, West Newbury only has a really small handful of people that receive Meals on Wheels versus Groveland receives, I would say at least 4 times more. So I think West Newbury around 3 or 4. And then we can have anywhere between, I think I said 11 and 15, average, around 12 daily stops, because many of those are couples. They come all prepackaged, much like Traveling Chef does. So in order to facilitate this, I said more than happy to, but AgeSpan, we would anticipate and need AgeSpan to hire their nutrition coordinator, and that they meaning AgeSpan would be responsible for the training and making sure that they are well supported. We can absolutely have a desk in the office and space for them to do their work, but AgeSpan would need to take control of the logistics and employment of that person. Any thoughts or concerns about that? If it all works out on their end, they would ideally like to have it in place by January 2nd.
They wouldn't be at the office all day long.
No, it would be about 2 hours a day in the morning time. Yep.
So that wouldn't interfere with regular pantry.
Oh, no, and it would be separate from the pantry.
Right.
Yep,
Separate. Okay.
yep.
So how about delivery people?
So again, those are all coordinated through age span. Certainly, we can help refer people to be a driver, particularly with it being in Groveland. Groveland people know the roads best and can do it. The route takes about an hour, but again, all here in Groveland. But the site coordinator would coordinate those drivers. Age span is the one that, does the background checks and processes the application for the drivers.
So that person would actually be in place, because I've observed it happen in West Newbury on
Okay.
Fridays.
Yeah,
And it's pretty much, can't think of her name now.
Jen.
Jen, yes, that's, okay, take this,
Yep.
take that. And I don't know if she's hired by age span oh, she is. Okay, she works also in the COA
Yep.
office. Okay, so she's that person.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And just see, they come in, they grab the things, and out the door they go. I mean, we see them delivered, we see them taken, so
Yeah, it seems
the
like a pretty
food-
smooth process.
The food is here, is
comes.
physically
So
here?
no, but it gets delivered daily. So there's I imagine some big truck drives, many different routes. They drop off the Groveland ones. They're all labeled, because they are special meals and
The
so
big
forth.
Bins.
Yep.
And what happens on days when town hall is closed?
We'll have to sort that out. I know that, in the past, when we were cooking the meals, or there's a little bit more setup involved, we were at the fire department, and then that changed. I would like to hope that if all it is really just a transfer of boxes, that we could use the fire station public meeting room, and our worst case scenario, if it's not bad weather, just do it outside. But, yeah. I mean, they don't operate on holidays, as
Right, but
well,
I think
so.
just like Thanksgiving, they wouldn't deliver, but I think
Yeah.
on the Friday after Thanksgiving, they might deliver.
I think, as with everything, same with food pantry, we'll
Yeah.
work it out. I mean, certainly that's our priority, is to serve people, so
Yeah.
we'll make it happen.
Okay.
Any other thoughts or questions on this?
It seems logical that it transfer here since we have the most.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we probably have more space too in that room. If they're doing it in the regular office, then,
Yeah.
than they do, so.
Awesome. Yeah, so I will, I told them I wanted to run it by you all, of course, hear any feedback that you have, but if there wasn't anything looming or that we should discuss further, we can move forward with it. But again, I did say it was contingent that age span fully takes that process on. We will just give the space. But anybody that is interested in being a Meals on Wheels volunteer, like I said, it's a weekly, it happens, Monday through Friday. It's about an hour drive. Really great opportunity to stay connected to those in town. It is sort of a wellness check many times as well, because you don't leave the meal unless you see the person there, so make sure that everybody's okay. You do get a stipend for driving. I think it's about $30, so yeah, check it out. Anything else? No? Next up on my docket was the MCOA conference highlights. So I went at the end of October to the state conference by the Massachusetts Council on Aging. So that is an annual conference where many of the COAs, if they're able to, gather to just to talk and share knowledge and learn from one another. So I gave a few, it was a full 3 days. I attended programming all 3 days. A couple of ones that really stood out to me was welcoming LGBTQIA and older adults. It was a round table of what's worked, what hasn't worked, and just a lot of really great conversation. I learned things like the Rainbow Cafe is sort of a standard program for centers that are offering such things. And so that is something that I would like to do. Again, it's really, a lot of like what we always do, but this is sort of specifically to make sure that our older adults that identify as part of this community is welcome and safe. And I know that we all think of ourselves as welcome and safe because we are, but sometimes naming that is really important, particularly for older adults that grew up in a time where it wasn't just said and assumed, So that is something that would love to do.
Alyssa, do we know if there is already a nearby community that offers rainbow cafes on a regular basis?
So there is a really great website. I didn't put it on here, but sort of has a list of all of them. There's not a rainbow cafe with that name nearby. Merrimack does do a dinner on a regular basis. Certainly same kind of concept though, and they are more than welcome for anybody to join them, outside of Merrimack, older adults. Georgetown, and I put it in our newsletter, does a monthly Zoom for people to join. And so those are the two nearest opportunities that I'm aware of. Yeah. So that was a lot of great resources there, and certainly connected with people, and we'll continue to reach out to them as we grow our own resources. The mental health co-response models. This was, it was interesting to see because I think Groveland is fairly new. Certainly, I'm new to it, to having Robin, a licensed social worker as part of the police force. So it was really a conversation with, I think it was Foxborough, who was, I think, the first in the nation to offer that program. So it was nice to hear their perspective and how well they work. They operate a little bit differently, certainly because, one, they've been doing it for so long, and certainly they're a much larger town. But their licensed social worker actually goes on patrol with the police officers on a regular basis. Robin is, here on a grant. She serves 6 towns. She's spread very thin, but certainly aspirational on what we could do long term should the funds be available, but also just great to have the insight of, possibility of what's there and how that relationship can work between departments. So it's good. As well as intergenerational programming, there's a lot of the programs that were highlighted at this workshop were sort of pre-made workshops that you buy into, which was interesting. Had no idea. I don't know that I thought it was exactly worth the price, because we could just do that on our own. But definitely a lot of really great ideas. Nothing wildly, out of the ordinary. There was a program. A lot of them were short, which I do like, like 8 weeks of something specific that you are doing together, then a culminating event, and that kind of thing, which I do like that model. There was somebody that did a program where the older adults actually went into the English class every other week, and they read their books together, which sounded like a really awesome opportunity too. So, yeah. Any thoughts or questions I can answer on the MCOA?
Glad you attended.
Thank you. Yeah, and I gave my presentation as well. We had a nice group show up. I think it's definitely needed, learning best practices about hiring and being transparent and how that relates to ultimately the goals and better serving the community. So that was awesome to see. I think somebody was like, I wish my HR team was here, so it was nice. So moving on, we have tax work-off. The applications were due last Friday. We received 14 applications. Reviewing them this week, hopefully all will be contacted definitely next Tuesday, if not before, in regards to assignments. Yeah, that was short and sweet there. Any questions on tax work-off? I appreciate Rebecca, town administrator, giving me a few jobs this year, which will be new opportunities for people. Certainly the library is continuing, COA is continuing, and that's what we have right now. There's a few smaller jobs for a couple other departments, which would be sort of ad hoc to add hours for people. We do only have 10 slots, so a couple people will not have the job. January, February newsletter deadline. I would love to have your information by December 4th. Aim is to get it to the printer by the 11th. And if all goes well, we will have them in office on the 19th. So that's what we will try for.
I know one thing that as the Friends would like to get in there. I'd like to provide a full list of all the winners of the calendar.
Oh, awesome.
Because
Nice.
right now, we post it on social media, but not everybody has
Yeah,
access to that. So we
yeah.
want to make sure that it gets in the newsletter so
Yeah.
everybody can
Yeah.
share in the happiness.
That sounds good. Thank you. And then I confirmed with the Pentucket Regional High School that we do have the space available on Saturday, May 17th. So please do save that date. Starting to look at keynote speakers. So if any of you have ideas on speakers or workshop presenters, you as the board, you as the community, please don't hesitate to reach out because we are planning. And again, I wanted to say thank you. I mentioned that the food pantry earlier, but there's also a handful of people that donate monthly or even sometimes donate weekly. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them that I really appreciate not only their generosity to our food pantry, but our conversations that we have together when they come into the office. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Alyssa. Subcommittee updates. I believe that maybe either Deb or Laurel would like to talk about the bylaws updates.
Well,
Go ahead, you can.
I will, we have, can you hear me? Yes, okay. We have met as a subcommittee, we have met with the town administrator, Board of Selectmen, Select Board member Jason Naves, and with Finance Committee member, I'm drawing a blank now.
Jim.
Jim Scanlon, thank you, I'm going Joe, no, it's not Joe, Jim Scanlon. Went through our changes, had a couple of recommendations, we've been going back and forth. I did email this to you, I hope you had a chance to read this, and thank you for printing it out, because it's a lot easier than doing that. In the meantime, we've gotten an email from the town administrator that she has presented the form that I think we all agreed upon to town council, and there are some suggested changes. So we were hoping that we could all look at this, and then at our next meeting, because for this to go forward, we need to have 2/3 approval at 2 meetings. of the new bylaws before it can be presented to be put on the warrant for town meeting. So we would have January and February at least, so, or December, if we can get this done by December and January, and then present it then to be put on the warrant. And hopefully this time it won't be taken off. So Deb, do you have some comments if you want to?
I can, I think,
Because you wrote quite a bit in the email, and that was something, just a reminder that the responses outside of a meeting,
it's okay, there's only 3 board members.
3 board members,
It
right?
wasn't, it was
right.
fine, because
Yeah.
it was just 3 board
But
members.
just,
Yeah. No, I checked before I
yes, okay,
emailed, that there were only 3 board members.
yes.
I think I think we actually have come to a pretty decent agreement with the town administrator, the finance board, and the select board, with the exception of a couple of points. And those points resolve around hiring and who has the authority to hire. The 2 sections that really were in question, I think the first will be okay. The first was about the appointment of, and that's in this printed out email that everybody has a copy of. The first is the hiring or appointment of the director. And so town council, so we sat down, we met, we've discussed, we came up with some agreed-upon verbiage with input from especially the select board and the town administrator. The town administrator then submitted the proposed language to town council, because, you know, we want to make sure that before at least I think we should, before the board votes on these bylaws, I think we need to make sure that town council is okay with what we're voting on. Otherwise, we're just going to be in the same, you know, not getting it done. So the first issue was in appointing or hiring the director. And the town council, our proposal was the board, in collaboration with the town administrator, shall appoint a director of the Council on Aging. Now, the important thing to remember is that the reason that we absolutely need to have town administrator guidance for salary issues, for benefits issues, you know, and just for the appropriate HR language that goes in an offer letter and all that stuff. You know, we can't just go on our own and say, we'd like to hire you and this is what we want. You know, that has to be done. I mean, I think the town has worked very hard in recent years to professionalize the hiring and the HR practices in town.
I would just add, if you're interested, because a few of these say, you know, in accordance to the town policy. So this one, I printed it out for you. It's recruitment.
That's what I wanted to ask, where that
Yeah.
was from.
So
Okay.
it's recruitment on the top, and it's 2 pages. So that's from the town manual. Last September, I had spoke to the town administrator about it, put together our hiring processes, SOP document, and that sort of what is the current process I am operating under.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just for reference for
Yep,
people.
yep. So as far as the appointment of the COA director, our language was the board in collaboration shall appoint. Town council came back with 2 options. The first was the town administrator shall appoint, subject to the approval of the board, a director of the Council on Aging. The second option was the board shall appoint, subject to the town administrator's approval, a director of the Council on Aging. My personal preference, and again, my personal preference is option 2, that the board, and I know it says appoint, which is a little bit of a legalistic, but in our heads, let's think about hire. I think it's the board's responsibility to select the director. given the approval of the town administrator, because again, we do, we have to make sure that, all of the correct HR policies and practices are followed, and that salary is within, budgeted guidelines. That's my preference. I think that
Might as well.
okay, I think we probably need to discuss that, and that seems legit. I mean, the town council has given us those two options. So, do we want to discuss that one and see where everyone stands? Because I'd like to be able to go back to the town administrator and say, this is what our preference for language is. It was discussed at the board meeting, and it's, not just the subcommittee, it's the boards, but only if that's how people feel.
Because the board is involved regularly with issues, decisions, perhaps problems that need to be addressed or solved, and have the awareness, the ongoing awareness of the work of the director and the COA here in town, I think it's incredibly important that the board shall appoint with the town administrator's approval for all that you have mentioned, but that it is primarily a board appointment and responsibility.
If I may interject here, too, if you look at statutory authority, the very first thing on our bylaws, it says, probably, I don't know, what sentence is it? 1, 2, 3, maybe the fourth sentence? The council, who is the board, really, may appoint such clerks and other employees as it may require. So we have, right here, this is the statutory authority,
Using the word appoint.
using the word appoint. So general bylaws.
I mean, so I mean, I think it's, as Laurel points out, it's that is our statutory authority and responsibility, I think.
Right. I mean, it's stated in the very first,
And I
chapter, or
I do
whatever it's
feel
called.
that since town council has given that to us as an option, that we can select that option, if that's the board's desire.
I
I
agree.
agree with that.
I agree.
Option 2.
Me too. Option 2.
Okay, is that everybody? Does anyone have a different thought?
I guess I just have a question on what that word appoint means to us and to the council or to the select board. Town really no different than any large organization, right? The manager, supervisor, they're going to do the hiring because they know their team best and going to find the person. Certainly they have sign off from higher ups. It's all within means. And I feel like that's the same way. So are they saying appoint as in, they are in front, the recommended hire by the board is standing in front of the select board and they are officially appointing? Or, you know what I mean? Maybe that's just my own hang-up. I don't know.
I know.
Just putting it out there.
No, I think that's a valid question, because where the only language in the bylaws is using the word appoint as opposed to hire, my concern is that appoint means
Select and hire, yeah.
I think we want to hire.
Yeah,
That's my concern, because there's
Yeah.
nothing, it's not, like, if this was a separate section or a sentence where it had already talked about how the board would go through the hiring process, or the director would go through the hiring process, and then it had to be appointed,
yeah,
That
yeah,
would
no, I
different.
get it, yeah.
to me, but I don't know, it's a good question, I suppose it's a question we should ask. You know,
I
do we interpret, should we interpret appoint to mean hire?
Yeah,
Because there's a world of difference between recommend and appoint.
yeah.
Right, but they asked us, we had a lot of other language in one version that said recommend, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go with the point if you like it. It's just my own curiosity, I guess.
I think that's a question that we should address to the town administrator and perhaps town council, and just say, you know, should we read appoint to mean hire? As opposed to go to the Board of Selectmen and have them bless it and make an official appointment. So that was the first.
Well, can I also, as I'm looking at what we submitted and what the council, what we have from, I didn't even look at this. I'm assuming that the current proposed language reads, in the board, in collaboration with the town administrator, shall appoint a director of the Council on Aging. The board shall appoint, subject to the town administrator's approval. Oh, I guess, okay, they're saying, never mind. So it has nothing to do, they're taking it away from the board. No, we're appointing, they're suggesting the board appoints, town administrator approves.
Right, that's option 2.
Right, what we have is the board.
We said in
and the
collaboration.
town administrator appoints.
Right.
So if anything, okay. Collaborate, maybe it's the word collaboration instead
Yeah,
of.
maybe that's too,
Maybe that's it.
vague a
Like
word.
collaboration, they wanted,
I think that's probably
Approval.
that's probably too vague a word.
instead of collaboration, they wanted.
Approval.
Approval. I get it now, never
Yeah.
mind.
Which that's,
So-
I'm fine with that,
I am too.
because how do you define whether or not there was collaboration? We
Right.
talked about that in one of our subcommittees.
Right, so should I change this?
Well,
now?
I think what we should do, well, I don't know. I guess my thought was we should reply, or Laurel, since you've been doing the,
The wonderful, oops, I skipped some things.
well, you've been doing the communication.
Right,
I think we should reply to the town administrator's email saying,
okay.
you know, at our board meeting, blah, 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 we selected option 2.
Okay.
Does that need to
And
be
when we
the
should say,
motion?
we came up with a question, I'd say, at our board meeting, we came up with a question. Are we correct in interpreting the term appoint to mean hire? If we are, then we select option 2.
Correct. Gotcha.
If not, then it's kind of back to the drawing board, but, okay. So that was the easy one.
Do you need to vote on that? Do you need to vote on that or not?
Then we get to,
Part of- No, we're not voting on changing the bylaws yet.
no,
This is really, we're bringing it to the board. The bylaws committee has come up with all of this.
Okay, got it.
And we're just bringing it to the board, and now there's this, and we're like, this is something we really feel we all need to discuss
Okay.
and clarify, and then get back to the town, the administrator. Okay, so yes, go ahead.
then the trickier section comes to, and again, I'm going to assume appoint means hire, appointment of the COA staff. Now, if you guys go back about a year or so, you remember that we specifically took a vote to allow Alyssa, we did not at that point change our bylaws, but we took a specific vote allowing Alyssa, by name, to make hiring decisions without the entire board having to interview a van driver, for example. That was our whole intent at that point, was just to give the director the power to
Director.
hire approved open positions. And again, that was, you know, more for, you know, one, to recognize that the director knows more about staffing decisions related to, fitting in with a department, different skill sets than the entire board does. So we had sent that email, which was enacted, and when we hired Joe, and I think when we hired Carrie, that process was followed. That didn't have to come to the whole board for interviews or...
Yeah, I would just clarify for people to know what that means, that, number one, I come to you, we have an opening, we have a need, can we hire? Or, yes, no, talk about it. Then, yes, absolutely, we have to go to town administrator. This is what we want to do within the budget, and so there are checks along the
Right.
way in an approval process. It's not just a single person. Yeah.
And then when the previous bylaw subcommittee rewrote the bylaws that we all voted on and attempted to submit to town meeting, that was one important section for us, was to codify that director authority within our bylaws. Unfortunately, the language was a bit ambiguous, and it raised financial concerns with the finance board and authority concerns with the select board. They interpreted our initial language as removing those checks and balances from the hiring process, which was never our intent. So subsequent to the Select Board and Finance Board's decision not to submit the articles to town meeting last year, Laurel reached out to the town administrator, the Select Board, and the Finance Board to set up a meeting where we could sit down and discuss all those issues, which we had. We had that meeting, went through it all. I think that everyone understands that that was not our intention, and that our intention was simply to place this where we believe it belongs, which is with the director. So we had come up with this proposed language that you see on this email printout that says, "The Council on Aging Director, in accordance with the town's approved personnel policies and procedures, specifically the recruitment policy," and the reason that we used that language was that was what was suggested to us to use from feedback from the Select Board and the town administrator, "has the authority to screen and interview applicants for any Council on Aging position. Appropriate information about the candidates is communicated to the Personnel Subcommittee of the Board. Director of the Council on Aging, in collaboration with the town administrator, has the authority to appoint new hires to fill COA vacancies." That was sent to Town Council. Town Council came back with a shorter statement. However, it, in my opinion, significantly changed the intent. What the Town Council came back with was the town administrator shall, in consultation with the Select Board and the Council on Aging Director, have the authority to appoint all Council on Aging staff, aside from the Council on Aging Director. All such appointments shall be made in a manner consistent with the town's current hiring practices. I read that as giving the town administrator the authority to appoint all staff members. I don't think that is what our board intended. I think our intention, but again, again, this is my own personal interpretation. My understanding of our intention was that the director would have that authority, but I'm fine with putting in subject to the approval of the town administrator, simply the same way that we did with the board's authority to appoint the director. Again, I completely agree that the town administrator needs to have approval from a HR practices and financial perspective. And their language, other than the fact, I would just prefer to reverse it, to say the Council on Aging Director shall, with the approval of the select, if we need the approval of the Select Board and the town administrator, have the authority to appoint all Council on Aging staff. but I think the board needs to weigh in on that, because right now, that's just me talking.
Well, I agree with what you just said. I mean, I think it's consistent with what we had talked about at that time. Melissa knows best the needs, the internal needs that that position has and what it encompasses. So I think that the Council on Aging Director should definitely be the one to appoint in collaboration and consultation with the Town Administrator, Select Board, everyone else involved in the hiring process. I think that definitely should be with the responsibility of the director.
If you look at the paper that we got this morning on the town personnel policies under recruitment, it's all the way through. It mentions the, department head. Now, isn't the department head Alyssa?
Yes.
Yes, the director, yeah.
It says, interviews shall be conducted by the department head, town administrator, or an appropriate designee. We don't need examinations, references. I mean, I'm just trying to scan this quickly because I hadn't seen this before. I tried looking, I don't know where you found this, on the town website. I could not find it. I was looking. So, I mean, and then vacancy, when a town position becomes vacant, the appointing authority and/or the town administrator will review the job descriptions, essential functions. They can change those job descriptions if it has changed. Recruitment, it's like they work together. But you do have an authority there.
Again, that's why I questioned the word appointment.
No,
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I just looked up the word appointment, and it says assign duties to. So, I mean, I think that, again, is the big question.
There's another issue that's raised here
Yes.
to me, and just to go, in this revision, the board is completely eliminated. Thank you. In this,
Order, you need to ask to speak, just
may,
to make sure,
I
and you need to
have
approve.
permission to speak.
Oh, granted.
Thank you.
Well, just, I don't
It's okay.
know,
uh,
he's
so-
not on the board anymore.
I know, I didn't know that.
So, to the way I read this, the board is eliminated from the decision-making completely,
Yes.
because we are not mentioned in this paragraph. If you look at other similar structures in town, for instance, the library has a board. And how would, what we decide here, how would that impact the other boards in town? And are we doing currently what other boards do, or is there a difference? I'm not sure how things operate in other situations.
I can speak for the library. If she needs to hire, if the director needs to hire a page, okay, which is, we're not saying we're hiring a director, but a page or assistant director, whatever, the job posting goes out. It goes through Rebecca's, the town administrator's office, and they work together to hire. The board is then notified. We don't do any of the interviewing, we don't do any of that, because we kind of feel like that's almost micromanaging things. Now, that being said, they have a lot more staff than the COA director, than the COA does. And we have a personnel board here on our committee that, has been notified, and, in the past, we had done some interviewing. But that was in, if you think about it, that was because we didn't have a director. That's why we did that, didn't we? Yeah. So, I don't feel we should be micromanaging the director's position. I think we need to be informed that this has happened, but
And in the COA's standard operating procedure for hiring, it notes in here that the director will inform, consult with the, personnel board. So I think, and again, the bylaws, the thing about bylaws is sometimes I forget, is that they're very broad, and you don't want to have to change them every time there's a small tweak
yes,
in a practice.
that's more policies and procedures.
So, yeah. So personally, I'm okay with not having language in the bylaws that the board needs to be involved, because I think we've covered it in our practice. Now, theoretically, could we have a different director down the road that didn't want to consult with us? Theoretically, but I would hope that we would continue to hire a collaborative director at any time in the future.
So when we needed to hire someone for outreach, and knowing that Alyssa just presented at the conference on fair and transparent hiring practices, when an outreach person was needed, Alyssa set up a system that seemed to me, as a participant and observer of that system, to work very effectively. It involved Alyssa asking for input on questions for the candidate, and then you fashioned questions that you asked in an interview, that another staff person and I, as a member of the Personnel Committee, asked several candidates, the finalists, and then we made decisions. How would we rank order these candidates? And it worked very well. Knowing that it worked well, and it was a fair and transparent process, I am hoping that this recruitment section from the town manual, when it says that standard interviews of selected candidates shall be conducted by the department head, that's Alyssa, town administrator, or an appropriate designee. So I think that the other staff member and personnel committee representative could be considered appropriate
Right.
designated people.
Yeah.
And I would be very reluctant to see that kind of fair and transparent process be sacrificed because of language. So because it was effective, it's the first time I was involved in a hiring process of that nature, and I could clearly see its benefits both for the people being interviewed and for the whole COA, And I think that we should recognize that and make sure that we can continue with that kind of a process, because it's fair, it's transparent, it's effective.
Very well said.
Okay, so Alyssa, this second piece of paper we received that says COA hiring process, standard operating procedures. Is this what
So this
Irene
is-
chatting with, or?
Yeah, essentially. So this came about, last fall when we were hiring for both a van driver and outreach. There was nothing outlined to me. We didn't yet have even this recruitment piece in the manual. So I needed to work from something. And so this is what I put together, just given my experience and background in hiring. Certainly, Rebecca was part of that conversation. Town administrator has seen this, and this is what we operated from. Certainly, like every document can be a living document and updated accordingly. I think the big piece, as stated before, that when you are hiring a director, you are hiring them for their expertise and knowledge, and part of that as a director is that they can hire their staff. I think a director would be, myself included, but certainly any director in the role would find it worrisome if they couldn't hire their own staff. And I don't know that that's what this is saying, just putting it out there that
It seems like it's, yeah, so it's consulting, but it's not collaborating. If we're saying before collaborating, that means we're meeting together, we're, having a discussion. And this is consultation. Consultation is just, so we're hiring XYZ.
Yeah. So, there absolutely needs to be that central person of, that does the things as both outlined in the now recruitment policy of the town and in the process that we had followed beforehand of, under no circumstance should anybody be able to hire singly. So that wasn't the process then, it's certainly not the process now. And again, we have to assume that everybody plays their part. So when the board hires the director, they're going to know that whomever they hire at whatever point in time, that this is the responsibility of the director to be in the hiring process and at which points they're involved.
But, in this hiring process, standard procedures, it doesn't say that you are going ahead and just overstepping everyone
no.
in hiring.
No.
So I don't,
No. And again, I think if the concern of town council in the first section was to get rid of a somewhat ambiguous and undefinable word like collaboration, I think consultation is equally as undefined and potentially ambiguous. So I would just like to replicate the wording that we just agreed on, where the director hires subject to the approval of the town where the board hires subject to the approval of the town administrator, to be that the director hires subject to the approval of the town administrator.
yeah.
Yep, I will agree.
I forget exactly what I wrote in my email to the subcommittee, but whatever that language was, I liked. I think I left the second sentence in there in accordance with the current town, which is that's better language than, I like that, that's fine, it's clear.
Email went, oh, wait, your email, oh, no, your email to us.
Yeah.
I have it somewhere, I think.
But I think the subcommittee, at least me, would like the consensus of the board to move forward with making that communication to the town administrator.
May I clarify? So are you saying that it's the town, are you saying it's the
Director.
COA director and the
No.
board?
No,
No.
no.
Just the
what I'm
COA
saying-
director?
Let me find my email that I sent.
I have it. You have the COA director, subject to the approval of the town administrator, shall have the authority to appoint, there's that word again, appoint all COA staff. All such appointments shall be made in a manner consistent with the town's current hiring practices. That's what you wrote.
Yeah.
So, no,
So
you
does the
you didn't
board
get
need
it
to be in there
because
anywhere?
this was.
I don't, I
something
think what we
between
just,
the bylaws.
I think we just said that because
That's why I threw it to
the board is
you.
noted in the internal COA
Okay,
hiring
okay.
practices,
All right,
that it does not need to be in the bylaws.
okay, I'm fine with that,
I
Yeah.
think.
yeah.
So, do you want that wording?
Well, I want other people's input. I feel like I'm talking too much here.
No, well,
No, you're
you,
not.
No, I think
You're not.
because you did it in an email, and I
Yeah.
didn't respond.
Right.
You know, but,
Yeah.
yes, I mean, I
Yeah,
agree.
then-
I like that wording.
So, yeah, so I think what we need to do is reply to the town administrator, say it was discussed at this board meeting. We have one question, which is, do we interpret the word appoint to mean hire. And if so, then we prefer town council's option 2 for the appointment of the director. And we prefer that language that we just said for the director's authority to appoint staff.
With, well.
Well, whatever
with
that-
just
whatever
the
those-
same, the same sentence,
Yeah. This,
but not the other?
whatever I said in that email, in my email.
Well, because, okay, so option 2.
That's for the first one.
That's the
Right.
first one.
So you're saying use that same thing, but say the board shall appoint, subject to the town administrator's approval, the,
I think you'd use exactly what
Appointed
town
staff?
council said for option 2.
yes.
But
But when
instead-
you're saying for other staff,
Then I'm saying whatever I said in my email.
okay, that's what I'm,
Yeah.
Yeah, the email that you just read, yeah.
But the word appoint should.
I would agree with that.
Right.
Moving forward with
hire
that language.
appoint.
And
Yeah, I have my little, I'm not sending this, this is just my
Yeah,
notes.
your notes, that's fine.
Can you, would it be possible for you to read that language one more time?
Yes, hold on. You mean the language that in?
Yes.
in her email.
The COA director, subject to the approval of the town administrator, shall have the authority to appoint all COA staff. All such appointments shall be made in a manner consistent with the town's current hiring practices.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to send this to myself, and then when I get home, so I don't lose it. All right, there we go.
Well, that has my support. As I said, I think that language is succinct. It covers all the points. And I certainly commend the bylaws subcommittee for the work that you did on this.
It's been a chore. But it's been a good, yeah, thank you.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that before we move on?
I just wanted to acknowledge and thank you to the bylaw committee for all your work on it, including these important statements, but also for updating the inclusive language of the bylaws. So thank you very much for making that happen.
I would like to make one suggestion under 111-13 purpose. This actually occurs on page 3. It's at the top of page 3.
That's membership.
Yes,
Oh, you said purpose.
it's at the top
Oh,
of
okay.
page 3.
Yep.
Members shall be nominated by a majority vote of the existing members of the board, and nominations shall be sent to the Select Board of Selectmen.
Nope, sorry,
okay.
thank
Can we
you.
please
Yes.
just say Select Board?
Yes, yes,
Thank
that's,
you.
that's me.
That's all right. I just,
When I sent this out, I sent it PDF to everybody, but forgot to save the Word document, so I had to retype the whole thing, and I missed that one. And anything that was struck through did not show, and I thought I got it all. Sorry. So that
Okay.
is, I could do that. here.
so if there's one more place where there's a comma needed, I can let you know that.
Yes,
I just
yes,
can't
do it
remember.
now.
I didn't make a note of that.
I'm sorry.
That's too picky,
I was
so
so, I was so intent after our, how long
I'll
was
let
our
you know.
meeting? 2.5 hours? To get this out to everybody, and I did.
Thank
I know.
you.
Laurel did an
That's
amazing
great.
And
That's
you-
great.
And then it was like, when I had to, everybody writing like changes, I'm like, I don't have the original Word document.
And
A
again,
very quick and
Yes.
prompt turnaround.
I know. Terrific.
Too
Thank you.
prompt, too prompt. I should have spent another day.
No, that's
No, no.
fine, no. Again, I commend the bylaws subcommittee for your extensive work on this and your quick turnaround. It was not an easy task, and you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Well, we'll see when we get it on the town warrant. Let's wait.
Well,
till we say
this
excellent
is
at that
this
point.
is all the working together to make things happen.
Wow.
If there's no other discussion on that, then let's move on to Friends of the Council on Aging update.
Are there any other subcommittee updates?
Personnel,
Yeah,
I don't think.
personnel doesn't have one? Okay.
no? And the personnel committee met after last board meeting.
Right.
Okay.
And
Okay. I was just
There's
checking.
no update,
Okay.
official update.
All right, now, Larry McElhenney, on behalf of the Friends, will speak.
Hello, everyone. So we're about two-thirds of the way through our November calendar raffle. Exactly, say the 20th, so yeah, exactly two-thirds of the way. And again, this was a enjoyable, uplifting fundraiser. And I congratulate the winners. I know that some of the people who have won have turned the money or the prizes back right to the Council on Aging, which again speaks to the spirit in this town, the generosity. We are a fundraising organization, so we give ourselves a pat on the back when we have success. So around $2,700 that we have earned, is that right?
Yeah, we had 276 sales, so $2,760, minus the couple of hundred that came from the Friends account for the cash prizes, but 100 of which was turned back to the council, so, yes.
Do you know
very
what last
good.
year's total was?
Just under 2,000. I think.
Great.
215,
Oh, just over
I
2,000?
believe, yeah, minus the money that was, so under 2,000.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good.
So we're growing.
30% growth, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah,
Happy with that.
I think Venmo helped.
Mm-hmm.
We had 40 Venmo sales, and I think that added a great deal to it.
Especially when you're doing it down at like Pumpkin Fest.
We sold 20 at Pumpkin Fest.
And I bet you used a lot of Venmo
I
at
did.
that point.
It
Yeah,
was almost all Venmo.
there you go.
Well, I
So
take
that's-
that back. 11 cash, 9 Venmo.
But still, that's
Yep.
11 sales we might not have made, and they would have said, oh, I'll come and do it, and never
Right,
do it.
Exactly, yep.
So as much as we hate new technology.
So on the horizon, our next meeting is December 5th, which is Thursday at 2 o'clock. Probably in this room, but sometimes we need to switch over to the Public Safety Building. We have about 15 to 20 people who show up each time, which is pretty good, but we could always use a few new faces. You're welcome to come in and participate. At our December 5th meeting, we'll be talking about our 2025 fundraiser to kick off the new year. We'll be looking for donations. Used to be called the membership drive, but we're kind of working on a new slant for that. And then later on, our spring fundraiser is going to be on April 11th. Is that the date? And that will be a concert at Bagnell Elementary School in town, and that'll be our next fundraiser. Join us, participate, attend our programs, come and have some fun, and find ways to raise money for the Council on Aging. I do remind people that our summer fundraiser for next year is, we have some seed money. There is a jar collecting coins and small donations of, in the Council on Aging office. As you go in, there's a table right to the left, but this is from my jar from my car. It's starting to fill up already, so I encourage you to start putting away. We're going to, again, come back at you for our small change fundraiser in the summer. So, thank you. Any questions for the board? And I want to thank all of the people that I've been working with. We are enjoying ourselves. We're having a good time. So come and join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other business before we move on to our November meeting focus area goals? All right, then let's move on to that. As we discussed, our focus was to come up with COA board goals for FY '25 through '27, strategic planning and looking at a long-term goals, not just immediate ones, which, as someone, I think it was Deb, pointed out before, we had a director the goals of the board was pretty much keeping everything running. And now that we have such a competent director, we're shifting to more long-term strategic goals, which is great. And I thank Deb and Alyssa for your emails that had links to other towns' strategic goals that we could take a look at and help us figure out, how we wanted to move forward with this and what other places had done. There was a lot of great information in there, and I especially appreciated the part about how to go about doing it, about the strategic plan involving strengths and weaknesses internal to the COA, and then opportunities and threats, although that word,
I know,
Kind
it's
of.
a terrible word.
don't like that word, that are external to the COA. So we were all asked to take a look at those and come up with, again, didn't have to be extensive, but just what we thought our goals could be using those 4 points, and then we would move forward with our strategy. So I'm happy to just go first and share my thoughts on those points. So quickly, internal to the COA, our strengths are a strong staff committed to the mission of the Council on Aging and in providing compassionate, complete, and caring services for our older adults. Our strength is that we have a very engaged community, good participation in Council on Aging programs and events. Another strength is our outstanding diversity and variety of programs and services and events offered to our older adults. Another great strength is our participation of the community in the food pantry. We have a great group of volunteers who provide deep and comprehensive attention to the needs and wants of those who utilize the pantry.
You're saying it all.
You said it all.
Oh, no, sorry, all right, I'll be more
And that's good.
I'll be more brief.
That's good.
Weaknesses
Can we
of
just, I
the-
think, you know what, I think it would be better, Barbara, if you
Yep.
don't mind, if we all listed our strengths first.
Oh, sure, yep,
And then we can kind of move on.
absolutely.
So,
Any that you.
so you've got, those are your strengths. Okay?
Go ahead.
Anyone else have
Linda,
anything
do
they
you
would
have
like to
anything else?
contribute to strengths? Whoops, sorry.
Well, she kind of said it, but not when she was reading it on her phone. The way we're planning in advance, we're not like on the wing of a prayer. It's like we're knowing what we're doing. We know what we're doing in May, like that planning in advance. And also with the board too, planning in advance, so that every month we have a focus that we're working on and touching base and making sure we're up to date across the board. And then everything else you said, thank you. There goes my list.
Sorry.
Marie?
Our strengths?
Yeah.
I think we have a very competent director. That helps. We are all in tune to one another on the board in the COA office. And I think that, for the most part, it's a really good group.
Irene?
To add to this list, I would just say that between board members and volunteers and staff members, I am very impressed by when there is a gap that needs to be filled, somehow or other, it always gets filled. Somebody or somebodies step up.
Okay, I think I pretty much, I did specifically call out the Friends fundraising as a strength, because I would guess that not every COA has that. And the other thing that I called out as a strength is the van. Again, not every COA has the ability to have a van, and that enables our ability to provide different trips and things. So I think that's it, yeah. And because we specifically said the pantry volunteers, yeah. So that's a lot of strengths. That's excellent.
Yes, it is.
Can I add communication? I think communication has been broader and deeper.
Okay.
right.
Can I share? Or-
Yes,
Permission to speak?
granted.
I would add in growth, that, we are growing as an organization. We are expanding our influence, and I think that's an important thing to remember, that, I like the direction we're heading, and that's, that encompasses all of the work that people are doing, the welcoming environment that we have, both in the Council on Aging and in the Friends, and people are coming in and responding to that. Alyssa spoke to it very well in her director's report, so, thank you.
Alyssa?
And to piggyback on that, the willingness of staff and board and people connected with the COA to learn more and grow in that way as well.
Awesome. Yeah, the ones I have that weren't yet mentioned were effective use of resources in all all meaning of the word. So I have financial and tangible. And I would also say community-centered leadership, not only with the staff and trying to get feedback, but, the board itself as community members, as older adults and the Friends. I think having those built-in sounding boards is, makes the organization much stronger for the town as a whole.
All right,
Now you
great.
can jump to weaknesses.
It's wonderful that we have so many strengths, because I had a hard time coming up with weaknesses. Again, I don't know if I really like that word, but the only thing I could even touch on was just continuing to be open to change, as needs within our older adult community change, the need internally for the COA to acknowledge and respond to those changes.
Anyone else, Laurel?
That we have no dedicated COA space for programs.
Yeah, I had that too.
Do we have, I'm sorry, say that again?
Dedicated space for programs. I mean, if something else happens in this room, we're out. If something happens in this room and at the fire station, we're out. For programs that are existing all the time.
And
So-
size, space.
And size,
We're
space.
limited
Yeah.
in what we can.
So I
offer.
think that's a big thing, and that we don't have a dedicated senior center.
Right, we need a senior
Or I
center.
shouldn't say dedicated, a space
Dedicated
for
space.
seniors. It can be shared by other community members, I will say that, but I think that's our biggest weakness. We are growing, we are working, we are reaching so many people, and yet there's no space. So,
Anybody else?
I just had one other that I just came across here. Coming up with ways to reach more people in the community, particularly older adults. Not everyone has access to a computer, to Facebook, and so we can't reach people as much as we would like, as easily we would like. The cost of bulk mailing is prohibitive, it makes it difficult to be able to do bulk mailings to let people know what's going on. And that's not really a fault of anyone, it's just, how do we address that? How do we reach more people?
And how do we make sure we have a full staff for all of the time, more of the time, holding on to, having a complete roster of staff members that we need?
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So I had added, I had the lack of dedicated space. I also had the lack of a full-time outreach worker. I do think that that is a weakness.
Yeah.
And then I put down, and again, this can be a weakness, it can be a threat. I mean, the fact is, which is one of the reasons why I put the Friends as a strength, is that we are restricted by town funding. You know, that's probably not something, you can't completely fix it, however, we are, because the reason we're doing this whole exercise is we look at what our weaknesses are and what our threats are, and we say, okay, as a board, strategically, how are we gonna look to address those? That's the whole, and you look at your strengths and your opportunities to come up with ways that you can do that. That's the whole purpose behind this kind of exercise. And I do think that, so I had town funding, and just to digress a tiny bit, like writing grants, that is a way that we deal with that. The Friends, having the Friends be growing and coming up with lots of new fun ideas, that's a way we address that, so.
Anything?
Yeah, you know, I know we're not at the, I know we're not looking at solutions here, but the communication, I think that someone, you know, mentioned, is we are making efforts, but actually having people read and be informed and be engaged is really the challenge. You know, the newsletter is chock full of great information, and you know, it gets read, but I think that it could be more widely read and more widely digested. I think that, you know, that's moving forward is how we grow even more, is if people don't know about us, aren't aware of us, then, you know, there are opportunities for us to recruit and to you know, service the community and service the mission. So that to me is, you know, how do we get those messages out? As you know, as successful as the calendar raffle was, I'm sure that there's probably 2/3 of the town had no idea what was going on.
I agree.
Yeah?
I agree.
And not that everybody has to participate, but how do we make it informed? And so, you know, I'm just thinking aloud. The Friends are doing the fundraising. When we needed to mail the Council on Aging letter to everybody, we came up with the funds to do that. That may be a point that we consider going forward. Again, doesn't guarantee that people are going to read it, but particularly with our fundraising effort in January, maybe at the Friends meeting, we would consider that for the January, February newsletter. So, it's just what occurred to me.
Yeah, for the weaknesses, many of you touched on them from my perspective, but definitely staff limitations, particularly for outreach, that we don't have a dedicated person. And so, you know, we're balancing what we currently do, you know, between two staff members, and is there a better way to do that? Budget constraints. Impacts, you know, the ability to plan long-term, which also then impacts program scalability, both on staff and budget, facility challenges, and then in regards to the communication piece, also misconceptions about the COA and what we do and who we're for. I'd say succession planning, both for staff and board. Would love to be more forward in our commitment to inclusivity. Yep.
I'm sorry, what was the last part? After succession planning?
More forward in our commitment for inclusivity.
Anything else to add to that before we move on to opportunities? Well, this is great. I love all these ideas and thoughts and sharing. So for opportunities, I just had again, the availability of federal, state, and private grants to increase program and services to be offered, including, are there any grants or anything for public relations, networking, reaching more people specifically. And opportunities that we must continue to strive towards the goal of having a dedicated space or a senior center shared with the community or not, or however that can work out. If not freestanding, then at least part of a community center or living facility. I don't want to hog everything, so. Anyone else?
Anybody else? Opportunities?
There's lots of
I
opportunities.
had the increased programming to address the biggest needs of older adults. Senior center, I had that. And I also had affordable housing.
Good one.
Oh, yeah.
We need that increased staff and budget. So we need that increased staff and budget. So I had, I think a couple of you mentioned it on other ones, but untapped residents, we have just under 2,000 older adults in Groveland. While we have a core group of people, we aren't reaching anywhere near that many. So, as Larry mentioned, communication, Barbara, that's a huge untapped resource. Another thing out there is, there's many Massachusetts towns are working on becoming age-friendly, dementia-friendly. I've mentioned it, so, really leveraging that, which could, again, connect to untapped residents, connect to communications and all that. Flexible staffing models, that's certainly within our realm to help. And not only, thinking about what we do here in this building, but how can we partner with organizations and really leverage, the housing coordinators at the Pines, housing coordinators, when affordable housing comes in, Nickel, so really leveraging those partnerships there. And I also thought about streamlining processes. This is more of internal opportunity. I'm not sure where to put it. So that we as a staff can be more productive. So, things like transportation scheduling software, which ultimately impacts, our community, but also gives staff to do extra, can allocate their time differently. Community outreach continued with that. I think clearly that seems to be something that's resonating with everyone, to outreach in the sense of marketing, PR, and getting word out there. So.
Anyone else on discussion of opportunities? Anything we haven't thought of? Okay, moving on to that word, threats. I had misconceptions in the general community regarding what the COA provides and how do we get the word out on what we do. Overcoming the stigma of preconceived notions as to, I don't need the COA, I'm not old. It's so much more than that. How do we get over that stigma and reach the younger, older adult population, of which there are more and more? How do we reach that community and increase their involvement in Council on Aging programs and offerings? And then to get more support from the town for, we're very grateful, for the way that they have responded to the need to increase salaries of staff. But we certainly could use more town budget support towards programmings and events and increased staff as those needs evolve. Anybody else?
I had, a threat is accessibility to services. And I think by that, I mean, if you look at our constituents, older adults, if for some reason the ability to connect them with services goes away, if those services go away for whatever reason, funding, whatever, how do we, that could be a threat to what we offer. You know, if, say age span was no longer in existence, you know, anything like that. So that was one of my threats. And then, again, I just think, you know, affordability, it's an issue. You know, affordability of people to stay in Groveland, affordability of people to participate in activities. So, those are my threats.
Yeah, mine included increased demand, so growing older adult population and including the untapped residences, you know, how do we make sure, are we able to meet that demand? I similar to what you're saying in regards to resources, but slightly higher is, you know, policy changes, things that aren't within our immediate control, you know, so changes in state and local policies related to older adult services is huge. You know, we do get funding from Mass DOT, you know, Medicare, Medicaid, all of these things. You know, heating assistance is also a federally funded program, and so all of these things, what happens if there's any policy changes? We've talked about it, but I'll name it just to know the importance, you know, public perception of what the COA does and who we serve. A threat that seems or that could be out there, worry about it, you know, is you know, community resistance for proposals for increased funding, you know, be it for a dedicated space or combined space, for, you know, tax work-off role, should we, you know, we are lagging a little bit behind on the amount that we are giving to older adults that are in those roles. So, you know, if and when, as we have asked for additional funds, you know, we need the community behind us. Just general economic instability, you know, every year is just, you know, the not only cost of living, but, you know, when we hire our people to come in for, you know, to do a presentation and this and that, those things, you know, are, while many of them are generous, not all of them have the ability to lower their price or to be free, and they have to pay, we have to pay them for their expertise. Yeah.
Oh, I would like to just thank everyone for the input. I think this was a good discussion, and I think it did what I hoped it would do. I think it made it maybe a little bit more clear to us what things, you know, when you look at the weaknesses and the threats, those are things that, as a board, strategically, we should be thinking about addressing. So I think we now need to come up with what our next steps are, which is probably to somehow take this and have maybe another subcommittee or a smaller group or something, attempt to somehow consolidate this. I mean, really, we should only, I think, as a board for a strategic plan, we want to kind of be looking 3 to 5 years and say, these are the things that the board wants the Council on Aging to work on. We're not saying the board or the director is going to fix everything. We're saying this is the direction strategically where we want to head.
Yeah, I would just say from my perspective, absolutely, to have these areas that you want to work on, and then it would be the job of myself and staff to then, okay, here's our mission or our submission. How are we going to get it done? And then we give the details. Okay, this is doable because here's how we can do it. Or you know what?
We just can't.
We can't do it, so let's think of something else.
I have a question. So when you're saying either form a subcommittee or whatever, I'm wondering, I know you were taking good notes. I didn't. I lost it. But could we have a listing? I mean, I don't think you're going to put that all in the minutes, but
No, I won't. But
for our
yes.
next meeting.
Okay.
And I'm also saying, so strategic planning, I know through the library, they have to do this for the library, and present it to Mass Board of Library Commissioners. I believe that's the one they, well, somewhere they would present it. And we also make it part of, if it's something that is achievable, like within this year, or, we say, within a year, we will do this, within 2 years, not that all of these can be done, but it's like our hope, our wish list, or whatever. And it's connected kind of to the goals that the director makes
Well, it
for
should be. I
her
mean, that should
staff.
be-
The
it's-
goals that she, presents for herself, and then we kind of look at that as part of evaluation tool too. But, not every single one of those is going to be
No.
doable.
No, absolutely not.
But it's a guideline to go, the strategic plan, not just for the board, but for the Council on Aging and
Exactly.
individuals that are on.
Right,
Yeah, I
that's-
mean, you're gonna have to prioritize what,
Oh, yeah.
what we
Right,
wanna
right.
do.
So,
I think we
but if we
absolutely-
could have that, if you wouldn't mind typing that up as part
Well,
of,
that's what, for our next meeting, before our next meeting, perhaps, I did take quite a bit of notes, and so myself, Irene, anybody else who wants to
and I think
help
Deb did.
draft a list of what was proposed today, a comprehensive list, and present that at our next meeting, and make sure with everyone that we didn't miss anything, or that everything is included in there.
When the meeting is posted, I will double screen, be watching and typing up a list, and then I'll send it out for any
Oh, that's good.
revisions or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, any.
You mean when it's
revisions.
on YouTube or whatever?
Right, when
Not
it's
posted.
on
the
Groveland
agen- Not the
TV.
agenda.
No,
first. That's
Groveland
what I thought you
TV.
meant at first, right.
No, the way I tend to double check the minutes,
No, thank you.
listening and,
Because, I started taking notes, and I'm like, oh, I'm done with taking notes. I did enough with this other stuff, so.
All right, that sounds like a good plan. Thank you, everyone, for your input
Yes.
on that.
so is this, so after all of this input, does this tell us what our December focus will be?
I think so.
Well, is it also budgeting time? You will be getting your packets soon, won't you?
My packet, no packets.
Or will that be done by then?
So we're having a team meeting, town hall team meeting, at the end of this month. I suspect that, we'll have timelines confirmed then, is my guess. Nothing's changed as far as I know, that we'll continue, finance, board will continue to do their meetings starting in January, if not before. But then they also range for a few months. So, but we never too early to start on the budget.
We could perhaps put it under other business next month to talk about
Well, subcommittee update.
what on budget.
Okay.
But I think it probably is a good idea to make our focus for next month a continuation of the strategic goals, and have that list, and moving forward with that.
Agreed.
Okey-dokey.
All right, well, unless there is any other business, our next meeting is scheduled for December 18th, 1 week before Christmas, at 9:30. Unless there's anything else, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 11:15?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Oh,
What's the matter, Laura?
I may not be here. It's when Bagnell has their concerts.
So I won't either.
I hate to say that, but they
Well,
grow too
I think
fast,
we'd
and
still-
before you know it, there will be no concerts. And I know
Yeah.
it's 9 to, it
Hopefully,
starts
we'd
at
still
9.
have a quorum, but we can discuss that.
Right.
All right,
Okay,
motion
so-
to adjourn the meeting has been motioned and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
I've got to go there.
Thank you.
Unmute.
They grow too fast. They grow.
You're muted. Thank you. If you could just put the mics back on the charger, that would be great. Thank you.